Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes podcast. I agree. That's why we always say that initial contact is like the pickup line. You don't want to go too deep with that pickup line. Make it super surfacey and not. Yeah, you don't want to go into the first date or the proposal. Right off the bat. Well, you're not going to.
And I think too, like, I talk about silence all the time and just dropping something out there and letting that consumer spin the story. A lot of times when you go like headlong in there and you say, hey, this is Bill from insurance company and I want to do this for you or whatever, bam, defense goes up. But if I just say, hey, this is Bill, I'm just checking in. A lot of times that person starts going, okay, who's Bill? Oh, I inquired. And that makes sense because they remember filling out that form, right? You trigger that. And all of a sudden they're kind of back on their heels trying to figure out. And then they start responding to you versus you kind of going in there with guns blazing and they get that defense going. So I love to just let them get their brains spinning and them trying to figure out how to respond. And a lot of times it works out okay, right? So then they feel like, oh, I got to fill the silence.
Yeah, silence is key, I think. It's when we get into, especially like the sales talk, I mean, people have to realize that it's not the same kind of conversation that you have with your friends. There has to be, it has to be intentional. Silence has to be intentional, or the questions that you asked have to be intentional with trying to initiate some sort of outcome rather than trying to see where they're at. Like, hey, do you want a quote? It's like, nobody wants a quote.
Yeah.
Don't ask a question that you know you're going to get a no to.
Yeah. What do you guys think about scripts? I'm like a big believer. I feel like that helps, is to have 100%. A script. And
yeah, one of my guys here in my office, he's really good in talking with people and has done well with his connection, right? So he's so good at creating the rapport, but he's almost too good. And so what's happened is he makes them into friends and then can't close them, right? And so historically, he's been sort of back of the pack, not really crushing it. And we've been really working this script and we've been doing we have some other programs with TeleDudes and all these things that we have the script that we follow. We've worked it in and I just was all over him and my sales manager was all over him to follow the script. And we finally got it into his head last month, he had his best month he's ever had. He was almost at 40K. And then, this month he's top producer right now. I mean, he's already over 10K, just after the first 4 days of the month. So it's been really interesting because you can do a lot more training, a lot more when you're doing those calls, right? We call them the hot seats when we're listening to the calls and the whole team is evaluating the call in front of everybody. It's a lot easier to evaluate where that call went if you're consistent, right? You can't keep coming to every call with a different approach because then you have no way to analyze and make improvements.
Yeah. To benchmark, you just don't know. I think even too, salespeople, we're always, we like to talk, right? And we can wander off and we can talk about a million different things. And having that script to know, hey, it's okay. The consumer, the customer is going to take me off this path, but I know where I need to come back to, right? And just have that, pull them back in. It really helps all of us because it keeps us on the journey, but it does allow us the flexibility because that's important, right? You're building rapport, you're letting them take you off the path, you giving them that sense of control, but you got these check marks to kick off and you can pull yourself back in. So
it's exactly what he said, because I said, why is there such an improvement? And he said, because I know where I need to come back to. Like he just has this little GPS, it's like, okay, they go over here. Okay. You let them kind of wind out, finish talking and then bring them back.
Yeah.
So it's been really exciting.
It's like if I go to the grocery store without a list, I am wandering around grabbing all kinds of stuff. Yeah. I can spend 2 hours in a grocery store, but if I have a list, boom, I'm on it. Like,
That's how you end up with the oops berry. You're just like, oh man,
oops.
Oh, that's so funny. Here's a weird question, but like with your clients, when it comes to the insurance, are they more apt to the script, or are other industries more drawn to a script?
I think for sure insurance is the hardest to get on a script because again, if you're talking health or life or, you're talking about life events that are more sort of broad based and, mortgage, you're talking about a house and getting a house. It's a particular life event. You're focused on that. Believe it or not, we also do senior living, like residents, and everything. It's a life event, but insurance,
I'm going to need one of those pretty soon.
Exactly. Well, we could tell you how to sell that too, but
no, just for me,
just for you. Okay. That's good. It's soon or cause I got a really nice place. Yeah, I mean, so when you're talking about health or you're talking about life, probably even things like home and auto, like you're talking about risk across their whole spectrum of their life. So you're asking them a bunch of stuff. You're asking about their family. And so I think it's really easy and comfortable to wander off into just the whole person's life. And that builds rapport and it feels good and all that sort of. So I would definitely say insurance is probably the least structured sort of sales process. And I think sometimes that makes it tough because you just like your guy, he's really good at building rapport. He's making best friends, but then he feels bad about selling his best friend something, I guess, or, so.
I think that that summarization is very accurate, and it's in line with kind of the way that a lot of agents run their business. So a lot of don't throw tomatoes at me, agents, but a lot of agents kind of go in and let the day unfold, and they don't have all these processes in place in their agency, and then they're on the hamster wheel, right? They're always on the hamster wheel, like because it's just it comes at you. So they're the agent, right? And the agent operates the business, whereas the business owner or the agency owner is much different. It's more structured. You have all the processes, and like that's the way we've set up our businesses because we couldn't do this podcast and run Teledudes and do all these other things that we're involved in if we didn't have structure. And so I think that it's a lot of work to lay down the structure up front, but it's very liberating and allows you to unplug from the business, right? Like we just look at cost per sale. Agents constantly, which lead company, where do I buy? It's like, I don't care, man. I'll buy all of it. We're buying all the data, and whichever one performs the best from a cost per sale standpoint, that's what we're going to pour more gas on.
Right. Well, and I think too, to that point, and this again, being on the lead generator side of things and more the marketing side of things, one thing that I always try to remind people is understand where that lead is coming from, where that consumer is coming from, and it can help you sort of structure and potentially that script needs to be a little bit different, right? If it's a referral and it comes from Aunt Susie, then you're probably going to wander a little wider and you're going to use kind of the friends stuff. But if this is coming off of the internet and they filled out a form and they probably filled out a form 3 different places and they're probably getting like 10 different calls, like acknowledge that. It's like, hey, I know you're getting a lot of calls. I want to be responsive. I certainly don't want to leave you behind. So just when it's convenient, give me a call back or whatever. And that's different than, hey, Susie gave me your name and she's my aunt and I love her to death and she makes great cupcakes and everything. When's the best time to meet you for coffee and let's talk about, the life insurance you're looking for, So really being able to structure that, I think, understanding that each one of those leads is created in a different way and the consumer comes into your funnel in a different way can be super productive too. So
what kind of volume for lead generation are you doing in the P&C space for real time?
Yeah. So for real time, we're doing it on behalf of insurance agencies. So we're actually building the websites, generating those. And so, our average client is usually an office, probably has anywhere from 6 to 10 folks in it. And we're generating real time a couple hundred leads a month for them. And then on the age lead side, which again is through a client. So we work for lead generators too. Those guys are selling to even individual agents, thousands of leads a month to agencies or to individual agencies. And that's the whole system, right? And you guys have probably done some similar stuff. That's building a book of business with data. And so that's a whole different process. So those are kind of the two spectrums. We're not a real-time aggregator. We're actually doing it on behalf of the individual companies themselves and just getting their website to generate leads for them.
Is it challenging to compete SEO wise against like your EverQuotes and your Quote Wizards? And I mean, they own that form space, don't they?
Yeah, so we actually do this for all of our industry. We do it for mortgage, and we do it for mortgages. We do multiple branches, agencies. We're not as big in insurance on the real time side. So the way that we do that, I mean, just the secret sauce is we use three legs of the stool marketing wise, right? We do Google Ads. And we super geo target around the branch or the office itself, so that we're not competing with EverQuote across the whole nation. Even though you got a statewide license, we're going to target those inquiries down by a tight radius around the office. And then the SEO and the content that we're putting on the site, that we're competing a little more nationally. But we're trying to be high in the funnel. We're trying to research, trying to figure this thing out, just to understand insurance. That's the kind of content that we're building there, letting SEO flow in. And then the big moneymaker is, as we're acquiring those, and a lot of these guys are also buying leads, aged or real time, we're dumping that into the database. And then the third leg of the stool is email marketing. So we get nurturing working on that database. So we're doing the database marketing, and that's producing leads. And usually that's producing probably most of your leads for really good operations that have been around for a couple of years.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that email funnel? I think that's something insurance agents usually don't have enough time to be writing out email sequences that are so long or don't even really understand. We have templated emails that you get with your CRM. 6 go out and that's it. So just to kind of behind the curtain a little bit, what kind of email sequences are you talking about to generate those type of results?
So there's a couple of different, kind of put them in buckets, right? So if you're working data, or this is pretty common too for insurance folks, so it's probably interesting, is a lot of times new insurance agents will come in and they'll like, oh, those are the cold leads, go work them, or here you go, here's a book of business, like you can go work there, and they're again cold leads. So we'll send out a 3 email warm up series that, again, it's usually just as simple as just checking in. Hey, it's been a while since I talked. Just want to see if you have any questions. This is what we talked about last, sort of thing. And again, that's automated. We're pulling just a little bit of personalization data out. We'll do that 3 times. We'll do it once when we trigger the campaign. We'll do it about 3 days later, and then we'll do it about 10 days later. And then if we get no response, if we get a response, then we just pick it up. It's a new lead, right? If we don't get any response, then they kick over into the nurturing sort of campaign. And then specific to the product that we think, or based on the data says they were interested in, we'll hit them once a week. Hopefully we're doing content on the website. So we'll hit them once a week. Hey, here's something to think about. Maybe it's not always about insurance, but it's something that's usually on our website. A couple lines, link to an article. Sometimes, again, since we're building these out in batch so that they'll run a whole year, we built one where we did it. It ran for every week for 2 years, and then it looped around and did the same thing again. And consumers don't remember, right? You can even sprinkle in some other stuff from other websites that just tell them. And then usually once a month, we're hitting them with an offer. So it's like, hey, this is what's happening in the insurance world, or here's what's happening with rates, or here's what's happening in the market, and you should be concerned. And so that's the one-off. So all I have to do as an insurance agent, once I've batch written those emails, and again, they're really short. None of them are over 100 words. Some people do these big, long things. Those just don't work for us, right? Just a couple of things, a link, call me if you got any questions. But once a month, I'm sitting down and I'm finding something from Yahoo News or Yahoo Finance or something like that and saying, hey, this is why you should call me this month. And that's the one thing you do for email for the entire month. And that works. You can do that on almost any, you can get more and more complex, but that's the basics.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's something that most insurance agents don't have enough time to do, is build out those sequences and manage those lists. And it can be a lot of work, but it can be obviously pretty rewarding as you build your database.
Yeah.
Cool.
You could,
well,
you
what
could
would
do
you?
some, you could.
No. What were you going to say? You can do some.
I was just going to say, there's some other things that you can do to systemize that a little bit. I mean, one of the things that we do, and you can do this as simple. You got to be careful. You can't just dump raw data in here. But as long as you got data that's real, you can use something like a Constant Contact or a MailChimp, or you can some of these other email packages. But a lot of times you can do this thing called RSS to email. So if you are doing blog posts, which is something we set up, we're actually writing the blog post, which you can hire somebody to do, right? Every time you publish, that triggers the email automatically. So now it's completely automated, and you're building that list over time. So that's another little technique. So there's a lot of little sort of low tech things that you can do to really ramp up the automation. So
love it.
Okay.
Well, I would love to know, especially from your perspective, lead gen is such an interesting and cool subject, especially going into the future. Everybody's purchasing on the internet now, and especially after the last year, we're super bullish on internet everything. But what would you advise either somebody that's been an agent that's been in the business for a long time or a new agent coming into the industry? What would the number one piece of advice you'd give them?
As far as their lead generation strategy?
Yeah, as far as marketing, from what you've learned with internet marketing with insurance.
Yeah. So I'm going to give a little bit of a fluffy answer. It really depends on the raw materials you start with, right? So if you go into an agency, you're starting, they got cold leads or they got a book of business that's going to hand it to you, then I'm starting with email because there's gold in those hills and I'm going to get the email cranking. If I got nothing, no raw materials or anything, then my strategy would be sort of a couple fronts. I'm obviously going to harvest that first 100 or so referrals. Like I'm going to work my contacts. I'm going to get those first 100. Everybody wants to do that. Friends and family. Everybody wants to support you at the beginning. They'll give you Johnny and Susie's name. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm probably going to buy some leads, right? Because I don't have enough money to build a website yet. So I'm going to buy some leads, and maybe it's real time, maybe it's age, but I want to buy some leads that have some intent on them. So don't go just buy that raw consumer data, right? Get something with intent, somewhere where they filled out a form, they've raised their hand, there's some sort of intent. It could be now, it could be later. And just buy a little bit of those. And a lot of times, depending on the agencies you go through, they'll give you some marketing budget to buy that, but that's going to give you the most at bats to really get that sales system started. And like you guys said, like start with the script. Make sure you have the script before you start burning through that marketing budget. Get that script right, and then go after those leads. But bottom line, I see too many agents, too many just salespeople. They'll chew up all the sales advice on the internet. They'll watch all the YouTube videos, and they don't have any leads. So what are they going to do? They're talking to themselves in the mirror. So you got to have those leads. By hook or crook, get some leads and start working on them.
A lot of pieces to the funnel.
And then you can build out the more advanced stuff, the brand and the website and all that stuff later.
Right.
But get some leads and start getting some reps in.
So if people want a scoop of Bill Rice, where are they going?
Oh,
yeah. So, scoop of Bill Rice. If you want to talk about age leads, and we've got a bunch of sales stuff and some videos, I put together a little page, billrice.com/age leads. And it's mostly focused on kind of how to work those because it's an interesting, cheap way to get started. And then if you want to go beyond that, you can find me on YouTube as Bill Rice. You can find me on YouTube searching for age leads. Got a bunch of stuff there. And then I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn under Bill Rice too. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Well, great.
Cool.
Bill, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
Did I take the wind out of your sails?
Yeah, it was fun talking to you guys. I'll run the gauntlet anytime.
All right, cool.
Love it.
Well, we will see you down the road, and we'll put some links in the bottom so they can find you easily. Thank you, Bill.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Hey, Jason.
Yes, Mr. Craig.
That was another awesome episode, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if people want to get a little bit more action and learn how to write 100,000 in premium off of even the worst internet leads, where could they go?
They can go to live.teledudes.com.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. Are we going to be there?
Yes, it's a weekly call that we're doing right now it's live, and it will show you the process. The entire process is super awesome.
I love it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sign up right now, live.teledudes.com.
Live.teledudes.com. That's live.teledudes.com.
Hey, Craig, there's a new community that we are starting that I cannot wait to tell everybody about. It is our live texting community where you and I are going to answer people's questions and give them free content, right?
Are you kidding me? We get to talk to them?
Yeah, which is awesome, but they have to opt in. They have to text us at 520-214-2219. That's 520-214-2219.
Nice. I'm going
Greg, are you going to respond to these texts?
I'm going to respond to them for sure. Live.
I'm into it too. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be our new texting community where we're going to get back to everybody that we can and drop some crazy content, free content, and free the calculator that you just came up with. That's right. The calling calculator, sales material. I mean, everything for insurance agents. This is it. It's the best texting community out there for insurance agents.
Well, what the heck is that number again? I can't remember it.
It's 520-214-2219. That's
okay.
520-214-2219.
I love it. I'm going to text it right now.
520-214-2219.
All right. I'll see you later, Mr. Jason.
Bye, Mr. Craig.
Wait, do they even listen to this on the radio anymore?
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
All right.